Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope everybody's doing great today. So happy 4th of July first off. And today we're going to be working on a bespoke fountain pen. I'm hoping maybe we can actually get this thing pretty much finished today. I actually pre-made the section part. That one tends to kind of take a little bit of time. So I'm hoping we can get this thing drilled, tapped, and then turned up, at least part of it. So I'm pretty excited. These blanks turned out pretty awesome. Let me go grab... I forgot to grab the blanks. We had, like a viewer's choice kind of deal going on. And these things, man, I think they're going to make some really cool looking pens. So let's go to the overhead view here. Look at these things. Oh my God. A lot of color in these things. And they kind of almost look a little bit really jumbled up on the outside. I think the insides are going to be pretty much stellar. Really good colors and everything. Oh man. So, like I said, I already made the section. Where did I put the section? Should have a section somewhere here. Oh, I didn't turn it. I just did all the tapping and all that kind of stuff. So, section's ready. Got that thing done. This is the one that I kind of need to focus a little bit more. So, I just decided I'm just going to make this thing. And I actually almost messed it up right off the bat. So, it's a good thing I didn't do it on the stream. I tend to get a little crazy. So we got a cap and a body. I've marked, where they go together. So it should be pretty fun. I'm pretty excited. Let me put these away. So these are going to be going into the Pen Blank Club box this month, along with the helixes. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Now, I got one thing I wanted to cover. I've been making a transition to the team color blanks being poured vertically, and I had, between two things, I was trying to dial in the colors. So I've got a ton of blanks that were test blanks, where the colors aren't exactly what I wanted. Most of them are so close, nobody's going to care. So they're fine, but they're not the one that I wanted. So I didn't want to have deviations when I'm selling them. So I've got a ton of test blanks, test pours for mostly, like I said, for colors. But then there was also trying to kind of dial in my pouring technique, because when you're trying to mix certain colors together, they can bleed. And the vertical thing, there's a bigger drop. That's one of the I don't have any offhand, but compared to pouring into a brick or like a horizontal pour where it's very short, the resin doesn't splash as much. You can control it, and so that gravity can kind of push stuff around. So some of these blanks have a little bit more like color bleed and like different looks to them, because I was testing out different ways to pour and get like the best results. However, I've got a ton of them. I'm not going to sell them through my website, because they don't really fit anywhere. They're kind of like seconds, let's say, but they're all perfectly fine blanks. But what I did was I put together a couple of boxes. So mixed in with just the team color blanks, I also had a bunch of like extra random blanks, like one or two left over from the show, or whatever, stuff that I had just been sitting around, and I was kind of sick of looking at boxes of blanks that I don't even know what they are, kind of, So I tried to mix up a bunch of totally different things and throw them in boxes. And I've got two options. If anybody's interested in a bunch of super cheap blanks, if you want, I've got a couple of options, and it'll kind of depend on how things go. I would prefer to sell an entire medium flat rate box. I don't want to have to send all these things. However, I know that this is going to get a little bit expensive for people. If you want 132 blanks, there's 22 in each one of these small flat rates, but they're packed real nice, easy, ready to go. If you want 132 pen blanks that are pretty decent, they're all 5 1/4 inch tall, round. Most of them are round. There are a couple square ones that are random. If you want to get the entire medium flat rate box, I've got two of these. Again, 132 blanks for $250. That is $2 a pen blank. All right, so they're pretty cheap, but when you buy the entire box, a medium flat rate box, they start to add up. If anybody's interested in a medium flat rate box, 132 blanks, $250, shoot me an email. I've got 2 of those. Now, if everybody's like, that's a lot of money and I don't know what I'm getting. I meant to get pictures on the stream. I don't know if this is going to work too well, but I did take a couple pictures of there's just a couple. It'll give you an idea. I think I can show you through the camera onto my phone. That's an idea of what's in these boxes. Okay, they're all just mixed up. There are a bunch of random things going on. And then I've got another one. These are mostly like the team colors. They're fine blanks. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just, I'm not 100% sure if the colors are what I'm using now. Like they just kind of got mixed in, but most of them are just slightly off from what I wanted for each color. So if anybody's interested, shoot me an email, zach@resinworksstudio.com. You can find the email thing link through my website if you want, through the contact page. Now, if nobody's interested in the full medium flat rate box, so 132 blanks, if nobody's down for that, I am willing to split these into the smaller ones. I'm going to jump the price up to $4 a blank because it's more work for me to deal with all this stuff and send more out. But if you want to do that, they're going to be $4 a blank. And so $80 for a pack of 22 blanks. It's technically, I'm giving you 2 free, but for 4 blanks for that. So again, either way, I'm going to take, if anybody's interested in the full box, the medium flat rate box, there's only 2 of those. If I get 2 people that are interested in those are going. So you'll win out, let's say. But if anybody else is interested in a box of 22, it should be a fun box of blanks. There are a lot of, like I said, like the team color stuff, but I tried to mix in a bunch. I had a bunch of random blanks. Like I said, many of them are actually from the streams. They're like, I had 1 left over or something like that. So there's some pretty cool blanks in there. But and I tried to get them as like mixed up in each one of these small flat rate boxes as I could. But some of them are probably going to be pretty heavy with like the team color, just the colors ones. So anyway, and you don't have to decide right now or anything like that, but I got these 2 and I wanted to let people know that I've got some extra random blanks. You can use, I gotta be honest, I think that for the most part, like the team color blanks, like most of them are good enough to be like, the Chicago Bulls or, whatever colors they are. They're just not exactly what I was looking for. Some of them are pretty far off, I will say, but they still look generally pretty good. Some of them are kind of bleedy, especially if it's something that has yellow in it. You guys know. So there's a few that are going to be kind of, but they'll still probably be okay looking. It's not, they're not, I didn't, if I did something where I was like, oh, these are terrible, I threw them away. So anyway. Let me know, and I will, like I said, just shoot me an email. That way I can kind of see what's going on, and that way I also have like if I get, there's, I don't know, 6 of the small boxes in each one of those. So like if I get 15 people interested in those, but I only have 12, whatever in order from my email inbox, the people at the top are going to have priority. But I don't care where you're at. If anybody's interested, all I need 2 people interested in the full medium flat rate box, you're going to get it first over the people that are looking for the smaller boxes. So just anyway, all right, so let's go and let's go turn a pen. Let's go make a pen. I gotta switch to the number 2. All right, we're ready. Let me stop, and I didn't read any of the comments. let me back up. Let's see here. Did anybody have any questions or comments? Let's see here. Kind of reading through. Respond to anything. Oh, Mike's got the tooling for the kitless. It's fun. I love it. Yeah, it can be a little frustrating. Like once you get kind of comfortable with all the steps, because like really though, there's nothing hard about any of this stuff. It's all simple. You're drilling, you're tapping. These are all simple things. Like it doesn't require a bunch of skill. it's just having that set of steps. And once you kind of have done it, I got to be honest, for most of us, if you've done it like twice, you're like, okay, I get it. Like it's not, maybe the first time you're like, this is, I don't know, overwhelming and kind of crazy and it feels funny, but it only really takes probably, 2, maybe 5 times that you've gone through the process until you're like, okay, I'm pretty comfortable with all this stuff. Now I just have to make sure that I remember to do things in order, and that's where, I always use a list. I still do. I'm not, I'd have to do this daily to get to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, I know every step, every size, every one of those things. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm just scrolling. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Jake's in the house. Jake was having some fun on his stream. He made some pretty awesome looking pen blanks. And I kind of figured if by Friday, yeah, probably, yeah, it should be. Because I'll get it out by Monday. Yeah, the post office, I think, is open on Monday. It should get there. I'm going to do it through the post office, most likely. They're sometimes a little, but Portland only takes a couple days usually. When I send stuff to Carl, it doesn't take that long. Let me double check on that, because I can do like a 2-day or some guaranteed thing through like UPS. I usually just don't go there. That's why I don't send it through them. But in this case, I could maybe try and see if I can get a guaranteed thing that'll be there. So if you want, yeah, definitely. Just shoot me an email. Let me know what the details are, and I'll let you know. All right, so I think we're doing pretty good here. I'm going to switch to this view now. Bring my section over. Like I said, I didn't turn any, the section or anything. I'm going to start with the body. That one takes a few more steps. The cap is fast. And I'm making sure that, one of the biggest things that I screw up on is I've done it where I'm drilling. So these go together out of that blank like this. And I favor, because this, I don't know where this, I can kind of guess where this probably came from, like here or something like that. So I take the section off of one end completely, because generally it's so much thinner. It doesn't necessarily match up with the body all the time anyway. Because otherwise I would have taken it like this, right? That would be the way to do it. But I would rather, because the pen and the body and the cap, I'd rather have them look matched up than worry about the section. So I just take that, lop that off the end right off the bat, and then I try to keep the body and cap as, matched up as possible. But one of the things that happens is I like to mark this with an X. That way I know where they went together, because you don't want to drill from the wrong end. So I've done it, trust me. So we're going to start here. So I got my little X there. That's where I want to drill in and all that stuff. Now the first thing I like to do is square up the end. I cut this on the bandsaw. I would recommend, if you want to really make sure that you keep as much continuity, use a thin blade on a bandsaw. And then I'll just kind of square it up so the cut is a little bit funky when I do that. Let me grab some glasses here. I got to get my phone up too. But just a quick, clean this up. It's a little fuzzy. Just kind of clean up that end, make sure it's nice and square. And the drill bit will, not wander on me. So square the face. And then the second thing we're going to do, I got to get my phone out. Hold on a minute. Can't see the comments. And I'm no expert at this. I just, I want to make sure I've done a good amount, but I want to, I don't do it often enough. That's my biggest problem. Like I got into laser and all these things, even 3D printing. But the problem is I do it so infrequently that I forget how it works. It's like I got to reinvent the wheel every time. So this is not that bad, but because most of these operations are pretty simple, but and as long as I follow my little steps. But some of those things get pretty complicated when you're doing different materials and different, you know, all these different settings and stuff. If you just do the same thing, it's not too bad. But I found that, you know, if I don't do something, practice it regularly, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Here we go, view my channel. I'm just pulling up the comments here so I can see what you guys are saying about me. Well, I gotta be honest, you know, a lot of people complain about the post office, but, you know, I mean, I send quite a few things, and, you know, when they mess up, usually it's kind of, you're like, what is going on? Like, it's kind of a silly thing a lot of times. Like, one of the things that just blows my mind is you'll get things where, like, like literally for a while there, it must have been some kind of like a specific postal code or, you know, something during the scanning. And it would literally go to like around the world. Like, it was crazy. Like, it would go to, what is the base? There's like a US base. Guantanamo. It would literally go to Guantanamo Bay. And for some reason, these were things that were always going to Texas. And there was some weird thing, and I wasn't the only person. I found other people online that were like, yeah, every time I send it here, it goes around the world. And so, like, things like that, you know, but they haven't lost that many things, really. And if they do lose it, it eventually gets there. So, like, you know, it's not the worst. I mean, really, I've had more, you know, I don't use UPS, but like I've had more problems with like UPS and FedEx with deliveries to me and stuff than I have had problems with USPS sending stuff. So this is a 6mm. I'm drilling this hole out so that I can use the tenon cutter. And this is a helical, whatever they call it, bit, parabolic. Which, man, it makes such a huge difference. The problem was, this was the only bit I could find, this brand, that would go 3 inches deep, because that's what you kind of, well, technically you don't really need 3 inches. I need to look that up. That's what my notes say, but really all you got to do is go in as far as the little tenon cutter guide for this. So it doesn't really need to be like 3 inches, but 3 inches is like the depth that I go in this body. And I'm going to be making a 14mm cap thread on this one. I was really debating. I wasn't sure which way to go. I like the 13s quite a bit, but I like the 14s also. And I thought the bigger one with this blank, I don't know. I just felt like it might be a little bit nicer. It's kind of stuck. Must be kind of... Sometimes you get stuff loaded up in there and it doesn't want to go in. I like to stop the lathe and put it back in like this, because I've had it where it like grabs the drill bit and sucks it in and screws things up. I don't know why. I don't really feel like it should do that, but it's happened to me, so I just said, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. All right, so we're going to put a little tenon on this using the tenon cutter. Yeah, it does happen, you know. I mean, the thing is, I worked in a distribution plant, like loading trucks one time, and this is another reason why I'm like, you know, I've seen how that was just one place, right? So it was actually at Amway. There's an Amway distribution center close to where I live, and like right after high school, I was working there in the summer. And I got to be honest, guys, if you ever see what goes on in any kind of like a distribution plant type thing, or, you know, whatever, where you're seeing the boxes, how things operate in this scenario, I gotta be honest, I cannot actually believe that more things are not just like gone. Especially when they have to go through quite a few different hops You know, like I said, I mean, there was stuff that got lost or totally damaged. Us just loading a truck in one place, you know, so it'd be like if you were in the Amazon center and you're just loading trucks. Like, so much stuff was crazy. Like, the way things work also, there's like things come down like conveyor belts, and there's like this whole crazy system. Like, you see the baggage claim thing, you know, if you've ever seen that in the back, behind the doors, behind, I gotta mark this. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna do a 1/4 inch on this one, I think. We'll see how that goes. Usually do 0.21, I'm gonna do 0.25. I just wanna see. Sometimes I feel like I don't like a lot of threads, but sometimes I'm like, there's really not that many threads on this thing. So I got my caliper set to 1/4 inch. Oh, that's, what the heck? That's millimeters. I don't want that. That's not a 1/4 inch. 0.25 is what I'm looking for. Put it on the right setting. Ooh, look at that. I nailed it. And then you just grab them, and then you can just mark, put a line on there with your calipers. If you've got like a $3,000 set of calipers, I don't know that I'd do that, but for these like $20 ones, which are generally, they work just fine, I would just go with that. Yeah, anyway, you know, like there's all these conveyor belts and things moving around in packages, and like they fall off these things, and people just are throwing them on trucks, and that's just one stop. You're like, oh man. All right. So I got this thing set for the 14 millimeter. There's little bushings that you set it with. This thing is awesome. So rather than me having to sit there and, you know, come in with a tool and try and get it square and all this stuff, this thing just does the right size every time, repeatably. 2 seconds. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here, you know, measuring and then taking a little bit more off and measuring again and doing all this stuff, and it just, until you get really good, that's a skill thing. So like the tenon cutter takes away one of the things that kind of requires, you know, some skill. So if you're like me and don't have skills, pick up the tenon cutter and it'll save your life. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a little chamfer on the end. That just lets the tap grab on, you know, like start easier. Just a little taparoo, no big deal. And then I'm going to sand my tenon real quick here. Lathe buddy time, because you really can't sand that part after you've cut the threads. So we're trying to make it just look as nice as possible now, but once you cut the threads, you don't want to sand those threads, you know. Oh, and I lost my papers, so let's see here. And I'm just going to go with the green and the gray from whatchamacallit, what are these things called? I can't think of the name. Zona. I don't really want to use that. Usually when I start sanding something, I'll start with that 600 grit, you know, the wet dry. The problem is that stuff takes off quite a bit of material, and we've put a pretty accurate tenon on. I don't really want to take off a bunch of material. I just want to kind of polish the threads, and that tenon cutter really does a pretty good job of, you know, this thing's not, shouldn't have a lot of tool marks and junk. It's pretty smooth already, so I don't really need to, I don't feel the need to mess around with 600 grit. I think the green and the gray will do the job plenty good. Just a little bit, just to kind of give it a little bit of polish, you know. Lathe rookie, what's up? Yeah, you gotta wait till the resin thickens up a little bit. Another option you can do, and I'm kind of playing around with this, I actually picked up some of the eye candy epoxy, and I wanted to try it out. It's thicker, all right, and I've noticed that, you know, sometimes I use Amazing Clear Cast Plus, But those are like bar top epoxies, and they're really thick, and they really kind of, I gotta be honest, they generally kind of suck to work with. So thick, I mean, it's like mixing molasses. Like, that's a time where I don't care how big the cup is, like, you're better off drill mixing that stuff, because it just wrecks your arm. But you can get a little bit easier. Sometimes it can be a little easier if you got a thicker resin to start to keep things, you know, separated. The problem with the epoxies though is they've got like a 30-minute working time, and you really still kind of like, it doesn't work a lot of times to just mix up mica powders, you know, or colors or whatever, and then just dump it immediately. It's going to sit in that mold for so long that it's going to move around, and they end up going together. So, you know, you're better off doing the method where you wait until kind of the end of the working time. That way there's only so many minutes that it could actually even be sitting there liquid and move on you. But the closer to the end of the working time, the thicker it is, and it just doesn't want to bleed together like that. All right, so let's see here. Cut the threads. Let's do some thread cutting. I love the thread cutting. I'm on it today. You don't use your calipers like that? Yeah. You were getting things from UK faster than Arizona? Oh, man. Oh, yeah, the worst is when it comes, like, to your town, and then they, like, send it somewhere else, and you're like, oh, my God. Really? But, like I said, for the most part, the post office does okay. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of clean that off. Let's see here. I need my... So the other piece of equipment that you're going to probably want to get, you don't have to use this, but again, it just makes things so much easier, is this Neil's Niche tool. But actually, this company's gone. Pretty sure Turner's Warehouse has a set now that they're making on their own. Is that correct, guys? I gotta be honest, I can't remember right off the top of my head now, but it's the same exact thing as this. If they have, I'm pretty sure they came out with a new one, because there was a big gap that was missing in the market, and I think Chad fixed that, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so this is my 14 millimeter die. This is gonna cut the threads. I don't want this thing running. This will cut the threads. Now, I've got this thing in there backwards, so one thing to keep in mind with dies, typically, this isn't every case, but in most cases, the side that has no lettering, no stamping, no numbers or anything like that, no writing, is the back side, and it's like full depth threads. The side that has the markings on it, let's say, you know, and I'll show you an example real quick here. Yeah, Chad came out with one because I like the way it holds the dies in better than this. So eventually I'll probably actually pick up their new one. But so there's set screws on mine, and they all should have set screws like that. I like the one that Turner's Warehouse came out with. They made improvements to this design. But on the front, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but it's got like Tapco, and there's like lettering. This side is, it's tapered basically, and this is the starting side. So it'll start a little bit easier because those threads are a little bit wider, and then it narrows down to the back. So the way you do this is, first you're going to put your your die in with the letters facing out, so it'll start better. Then once you've gone the full thing, you're going to flip it and then finish off with the back end starting. All right, so you'll see here in a second. And I like to use a little bit of WD-40. Frankly, I think it'd be easier if I just painted this stuff on. This gets pretty messy. Oh, there we go. So eventually I might just get a bucket and a little paintbrush, just kind of, you don't need to spray it, I've found. Sprayer works pretty quick, but it's kind of messy. All right, and then let's see if you guys can kind of get in here a little bit better so you can see this. I love this stuff. This is so much fun. Like, you're like, I did all the work. Like, I put all the mechanical magic in there. And I like to just kind of get it started, you know, sorta, and just make sure everything's running true. Looks pretty good to me. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Let me make sure I got that tight. And I'm backing it out to kind of clear the chips. See, it's got a lot of junk in the way. That can kind of make it not go in as easily. And when you get to the end, you don't want to like try and crank it hard. Just, you know, get it where it's starting to tighten up and then back it all the way out. You don't want, because it can kind of mess your threads up if you reach that shoulder and you're still trying to crank it around. Right? Now, one thing you could do is on the actual tenon itself, you could make a little notch. You need to give this some clearance somehow, a little relief cut. Otherwise, it'll bind up when it starts getting to the shoulder. So you can either, there's two options. You can either put that relief cut on the tenon, and that's fine. And that's what I did on the section. I don't know if this will come through on the video here as well. There's like a little notch. I took out a little bit right up against that shoulder. So there's like no threads there. Then it'll seat correctly on this shoulder. The other option is you can make that relief cut in the cap. So somewhere along those threads, you need to give relief so it doesn't bind at the end. I don't like the look of that on my body. So I put it in the cap. But you can just as easily come in here with like a little, you know, detail tool or parting tool if you got a really thin one. I got an 1/8 inch parting tool that I use. And you can just do it on the body there if you don't mind the look of that. I don't like that look particularly. So I've flipped my tap here, or my die, to the back end. Now, this is where things get tricky, especially on these triple lead. There's like 3 different starting points of the threads that makes it, the cap, turn quickly rather than just one continuous thread. That's what I use on the section. Where did my section go? This one, it has one starting point. It has to line up correctly, and then it just goes in one way. This is a triple where there's 3 different starting points, but it makes it so that you only have to turn it like 1/3 of the way. It just makes it so you're not like screwing and screwing and screwing when you put the cap on. But because of that, it makes it complicated, and it makes it a little bit harder to get, like the threads are all closer together and kind of smaller feet, sorta, I guess. That's the only way I can explain it. When you come back to do this again from the back end, it makes it hard to get everything like lined up. So you need to, I'm going backwards trying to feel where it engages, because otherwise if you don't get this right, it's gonna strip your threads. It's much, man, that thing is not finding, usually you can kind of feel a little click. I'm not feeling any kind of clicks. Oh, there we go. Okay. You can kind of feel it engage, but you want to be very careful when you're doing this second round, starting that thread. Try to clean out all those threads, all the extra material, and then, so I'm always very careful when I'm doing the cap threads on this. I like to come in and do it a couple times, make sure I've gotten it, because if I don't have to, I don't want to come back and have to redo this. Sometimes you'll have to kind of come back after you're done. It's a little tight, and re-tap those threads, but if you can avoid having to do it with a triple lead die, you're going to be better off. Get those things nice and clean the first round if you can. Sometimes it doesn't work with you, but you'll thank me in the end. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's see here. I can't test anything because I don't have a, I got a different cap. Let's see here. Do I have a 14? It's kind of nice to have, I would recommend just putting together a dummy pen. This one's got 14 millimeter threads on it, so I can test this with this cap and make sure everything is going the way I want. Now that's not really feeling. Is this a 14? Yeah, see, it's good to test things. Make sure you did it right. This cap might be, well, it shouldn't be messed up. Okay, there we go. A little bit tight, but it's working. Okay. Just to make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. But it's nice to have kind of a dummy pen, something that's not, you know, something you maybe kind of don't like the looks of, one of the first ones. Make sure that the threads are good, but that way you can just have it sitting in your shop and test things as you're going. All right, so now we're going to drill a hole for a converter. Let's see here. What's going on in the chat? I've been kind of, the problem is, yeah, I use a cup and a brush for threads. Yeah, it just seems like it's probably easier, a little less messy. You can get, and the other thing is like I find, the reason that I'm really thinking about switching from that sprayer is I'm kind of not hitting what I want. Like it bounces off and I'm not actually even doing what I really want to. I think with a brush you can just paint it on where you need it and that's it. And you're not just, especially if you're using something like WD-40, like I don't need it everywhere in my shop. Okay, so I use a T-bit. It's a little bit bigger. I think there's probably some other size that would work just fine in the standard sizes. Let me look on my chart. T is like a 9. I found the 9 on some of the converters, it's a little bit tight. That's why I went up to T. You could also just use a 23/64, because I'm pretty sure anyway. No, I take it back. You can use a T and that'll work for your, you don't want to go up to 23. You want to use a 9 millimeter because that's going to be the threads. So technically 9 millimeter is the correct number. T can work as well. That's why I use it. I don't know why I use it. I got to be honest. I think we talked about this last time. I'm like, I don't know why I use the T. 9 millimeter probably works better. I'm going to use a 9 this time because that's actually technically the correct size. So I want to do that and I want to see if I need to change my notes. There was a reason I used T. I don't have that part in my notes though. So let's pull out a 9 millimeter, see how this goes. The threads that we're going to cut in there for the section are going to be a 10 millimeter by 1. 10 by 1? And you basically just subtract those numbers to figure out what drill size you use. Is it 10? I think it's 10. Yeah, 10 by 1. So 9 millimeter is the correct size for the threads for sure. T is just slightly larger, so I don't know. I think there was something to do with the converters is the reason I did that. Highland Boxes, what's up? I haven't seen you for a while. Let's see, am I missing anything? You can use your CNC lathe, yeah, that would be nice too. Okay, I don't think I'm missing anything. Let's go. So this thing's gonna go in 3 inches deep. I'm gonna measure that real quick here. And just make sure I'm on. Somewhere around here. And technically I can spray this also. You can kind of get away without doing that on a lot of these things. You definitely want to use some sort of a lubricant when you're cutting, like drilling and cutting the threads on. If you've got something that's a see-through blank, you definitely do. It'll reduce some of the surface, like tool mark stuff that shows up. But if in this case, I don't think we're going to be seeing through this thing anyway. Got some junk in there. I'm a little bit less worried about it. Come on, get in there. Okay, there we go. We got that. Now, a lot of times I find that you end up getting a bunch of extra shavings in the bottom. Look at that, I'm pulling out powders and stuff. So I got these little things that, little pipe cleaners, they seem to work pretty well. You can also just take it, I don't really like taking it out of the chuck and then trying to put it back in there, because it's not going to be running exactly concentric again. So I like to wait to take it out until I've actually done all the operations. But if you've got a bunch of junk in there, it can also screw up your operations. So as best you can clean it out off the bat, better. Look at that, it's still coming out of there. All right, well. Okay, I think that's good. And we're gonna do a little chamfering on the inside again to let that tap start easy. I'm just gonna use this little chamfer tool. Just a little bit, not a big deal. And we're gonna tap some threads. All right, let's see here. I think that's the next step, right? Yeah. So again, we're going to go with the 10x1 tap. Get this thing set up on that. Again, definitely one of the tools that I would highly recommend is get this tapping set up. And again, Turner's Warehouse came out with a new one. It's even better than this one. This one's not even available anymore. All right, so I'm going to give it a little, yeah, I really need to get a little bucket and a paintbrush. The other problem is I'm just wasting a bunch of WD-40. Spraying it all over the place. Now you can, if you know, I realize that all these like tools, like you can get away without using the tenon cutter. Okay, you can just cut a tenon by hand using, you know, like a square carbide, and I'm not talking about the radius one, like the dead square one you want, or a parting tool or something. So you could do it, you know, by hand. It's so much faster with this thing because it's just dead on. Once you set it up, the way this thing works. So this is my 14 millimeter. There's a little bushing. It's kind of sort of like the pen blank stuff. It just registers, this is the right diameter for the threads for a 14 millimeter die. And so you just adjust it here and get this little cutter set up, and then it cuts the same tenon, you know, perpendicular every time, flat. It's just great. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this thing's not like a cheap thing to just pick up on a whim, but it makes your life a lot easier. But you can do that without it. You can make tenons by hand, no problem. This guy, you can also use like your drill chuck. It's not as good at all, but you could use your drill chuck and kind of get by that way. There's different ways to set up taps and stuff. You could even use like a T-handle. That's really not going to be awesome, but you could do it without this setup. This just makes it so much better. It's just literally meant for this operation, and it makes things great. But there's ways to get around this before you, should probably use the hand wheel. You know, before you invest a bunch of money, you can test the waters without most of these tools. Now, the things that you're going to need are taps and dies. Like you can't get around that. But you don't need to spend a ton of money on taps and dies. You can use literally any size you want. It's your choice. Now, there are sets and things that are standard sizes that a lot of custom pen makers use. You know, for these like the cap and body threads, a lot of times you've got a range between 12 and 15 millimeters. That's kind of the standard range, but you don't need to do 12 millimeters or 13 or whatever. You can just go down to the store and get, you know, the cheaper single lead taps and dies, because those triples are super expensive. So, you know, starting out, I would recommend you just use the single lead cheaper taps and dies anyway, and you can pick whatever you want based on the dimensions. Find something that's, you know, maybe similar to a 15 millimeter. Well, 15 is a pretty big pen. A lot of people, 13 seems to be the kind of sweet spot. So 13 millimeters is like an equivalent tap and die. Let me see here. 13, where's the 13s? Half inch. That's readily available, I would imagine. Half inch. It's about the same exact thing. On a single lead tap and die, you can find that on Amazon anywhere, pretty much. So that'll take care of your body and cap threads. And you can I mean, I'm talking they're probably like 10 bucks. Like, it's pretty cheap to find these. And then for this section, you can find the 9. You know, this tap is very cheap, and the you know, like a 10 millimeter. It's a very standard size, single thread or single lead. So there's ways to find all this stuff pretty cheap to start out. You don't need to be all crazy with this stuff. Okay, so we got our threads. Let's see if our section fits. I already made that part, you know. And I keep losing that thing. I'm going to lose that thing. Here it is. Okay, let's see if our section works. Oh, it works nicely. Little tight at the end. I might not have gotten... Now, one thing that I should have done was cleaned out these threads before I started messing around with that, because if there's material in those threads, then I just ground it in even further. Oh, yeah, there's some junk. So, always good to clean it. Now, I think I'm done. So technically at this point, an easy way to get junk out of the tube is to just look at all that stuff. Did you guys see that? Look at all the nasty that came out of this thing. I just tapped it. Now, you don't want to bang it too hard because you'll mess your threads up, but if you just tap it a little bit, that'll help you get some of that hard to get stuff out. And then let's try this again. Sometimes you got to kind of work with it a little bit. A little tight at the end. I really might need to chuck this guy up and ease this a little bit more. Let's try that real quick. And I can kind of show you what I do to ease, put a little relief in the tenon. So let's make sure that the camera's showing you what I'm doing here. Zoom in a little bit. I don't know if that's better or worse. Okay, So like I said, I've got a pretty thin parting tool. You could also use a detailer. That would work fine. I'm just going to come in here and I'm taking off some of the threaded, some of the tenon, putting a little divot in at the end, you know, on this shoulder. So let me just take off a little bit more material, because like I was saying, if you don't do this, and if you don't do it enough, there's not enough, it's not deep enough, you're going to get like a bind, it's going to get tight, it's going to kind of want to bind up when you're screwing these things together. So you always need a little bit of relief at the end. It's still a little tight at the end there. So now another thing that you can, there's lots of ways to kind of fix this up a little bit. Now, one thing I can do is that I didn't do actually, and I usually do, I can come back in. Now I took it out and I don't love this, but it's going to follow the same threads. Okay, so let me put this thing back in. I'm going to hook this back up, and I'm going to run the threads on this thing one more time. Get this thing closer. I'm going to go backwards until it kind of clicks. Now I know that I'm in. Let's tighten this thing up. How about that? But it should still follow my threads, even though I pulled it in, you know, took it out of the thing. Let's just cut a couple more threads even, maybe. Tighten that. So I can kind of try and see if maybe I didn't get those threads, you know, perfect the first time. We'll see how that turned out. Now, these might actually even have some junk in them. I didn't think about that exactly. Always clean everything up. I mean, frankly, what I should do is throw this in the sonic bath. Make sure there's nothing on it, but let's just try this out. Still a little bit, all right? So, which tells me probably I need to run the die on this piece. And if that, and sometimes like this, sometimes nothing works. And the way to fix that, I'm not even going to hook this thing up. I'm just going to run it. Usually you can just kind of run it. Just make sure I've got the end there good as I can. Oh, clean this off again. Now, if you still have problems, the easy way to fix this is you just put a little bit of, you could probably even use like the #1 magic juice. But I usually use a buffing compound, and you just rub it on the threads and then work it in and out. It's basically like you're sanding the threads. See how this does. Still a little sticky, but I think once we clean it, it's running pretty true. Everything's good. So I think we're good now. And like I said, if I still feel like this is a little too sticky, it's a little too tight, you can just put some sort of an abrasive compound on here. You could probably use, if you've got Yorkshire grit, that would probably do the same thing. Put a little Yorkshire grit on these threads and then just screw it in and out, and that's just going to relieve some of the material and make it a little looser. All right, so we got 2 parts. Let's get our cap going here. Make sure I'm on the right side of the threads, or, you know, like find my mark. That's the side I want to drill on. Let's get this thing all taken apart. I don't need this part anymore. I don't need this. Or this. Let's see here. So let's check the comments. Like I said, I got to kind of focus a lot more on this stuff than I do normal. Let's see here. Yeah, spring center in your tailstock. Yeah, other people know a lot more stuff about this kind of machining. Yeah, that's true for tapping for threaded inserts. I mean, there are a lot of things. Depending, if you use your imagination a little bit, you can do a lot of things with these tools other than just pens. That is very true. Yeah, what kind of nibs? Yeah. I go with the Ovo. I've just kind of picked one. Chad Schimmel's in the house. Oh my God. Since I got your attention here, Chad, I got that invoice sent over, so check your emails. But yeah, and if you guys, so I already told you guys, I am definitely not a master at doing this stuff. I know some things. I can give you a couple little tips. I am not the master of doing custom pens. You know who is? Chad Schimmel. And guess who has like full-on tutorials on their channel? Yep, Turner's TV. So if you're curious about getting into this, want to see like a real good breakdown, like in depth, like this is how you do it, and pretty simple. Like Jake always says, like I do things to the nth degree, kind of. I want to understand exactly what's going on. And I like to share that, tell people that, like go in depth on things. Oftentimes that just confuses people, and so it's not the greatest way to do things for some people. What I like about Chad is he tells you what you need to know without making it complicated like I do. Because if there's one thing I know, is that I can complicate the heck out of everything. And I know where I got that because my dad does the same thing. I'm like, why don't you just do it this way? And he's like, oh, that's way easier. I'm like, yeah. But I do the same thing too. Can't tell you how many conversations I'm like, hey Chad, do you have any ideas about this? And he's like, why don't you just do it this way? I'm like, oh yeah, that would take 2 seconds instead of 3 days and be a lot easier. We all know that. All right, so square up the end. And it's really important to get this centering, the whatever, what is this called, center bit. It really does help to get the drill started properly. It's very cheap. Turner's has these, I think they're $5 or something like that, if that. But it really helps when you're drilling to make sure that that drill bit starts the way that it needs to, and go in there straight as possible. Okay, so drill. Okay, so sorry, I was just reading my notes because I used to do a 2-step process on this, and I found like you don't need to do that. Just go with one drill bit and get it done, because you're not taking that much more out after the fact. So we're going with a 33/64. This is a weird one. 33/64. So I'm guessing that's probably just over a half. You could also probably use like a 13 millimeter, I'm guessing. Yeah, 13 is probably what you want. Actually, 13.2 I think is the correct one. So anyway, if you're doing a 14, 33/64 works fine. That's what I use. It's worth overdoing. That's true. That's true. Yeah, any type of pen. Chad's got you covered. Very good tutorial. I mean, honestly, that's where I learned too. You know. I gotta measure this. I think that mark might be wrong. I don't know. Oh no, that's about right. Okay. Okay. Let me give it a little spray. Nice thing about the big drill bits, they tend to eject the chips better. You might notice I'm not using a parabolic bit for this. It'd probably be super expensive, but that 6mm drill bit, if you're using a regular drill bit, it was terrible. It would take forever. It would just load up right away. But with the parabolic, for those smaller sizes, parabolic really clears the chips. Like, I mean, you can do it probably 10 times faster. And that also goes for your, you know, kit pen sizes also. If you're doing like smaller ones, I mean, if you're doing, oh, I don't want to do that. If you're doing 7mm, you know, slim lines, I would highly recommend looking into a parabolic bit. Even the 10, you know, for 10mm for cigars. I mean, I have a parabolic for 27/64 even for the Sierra size. I don't have one in the 12.5, I don't think. Do I? Oh yeah, no, I bought them. I have them for most of those now. All right, so let's turn off this loud, stupid thing. Oh yeah, no problem. Chad's great at teaching people. Very good. If you ever get a chance to take a class with Chad, in person, ooh, you'll thank me. You'll thank me later. Does a really good job. Okay, so we're gonna chamfer that hole. Make that starting point even better. And this is where, so again, I was talking about clearing. You need to have some clearance for your threads. I'm going to put it on the inside. So this is a little clunky. I wish I had like a one and done, I don't got to think about it kind of solution for this, but I don't. So what I do, it's not that hard, but I use the detail tool, and what I'm doing is I'm just putting kind of a little chamfer, an even bigger, deeper chamfer inside the cap, and that's going to give me that relief. Again, the alternative is you'd have to put a relief cut on your body, and I don't like the way that looks, having like that little indentation on the pen on those threads. I like it to be kind of clean looking. So what I'm going to do, I find it much easier for me to see if I've got my lathe can go in reverse. So if you see me doing something weird, I'm on the wrong side, it's because it's going in reverse. If you don't have that, then it's not a big deal. You just got to get a good view of what you're doing, but I can see better from here. All right. And so I'm going to angle this thing, and I'm just going to kind of chip away. Now, I've already done the body side, so I can test this and see how does it fit. Did I get enough, did I take enough material out? I'm going to turn on the dust collector. I'm going to get you guys, I got to kind of stand where the camera, like in front of the camera, so we're going to try and get the camera oriented out of my way a little bit more. Yeah, the funnel club, yeah. Yeah, this is definitely one of those. Now, the biggest problem with this is, and one day I may actually just grind this thing down. The problem is this bottom of this thing like kind of hits. So it's kind of, and actually, I forgot. Technically what I do is use a skew chisel for this, because I don't like the way that thing runs into the, it bottoms out. So I like to come in with a skew chisel. And again, the tough thing about this is I don't know. Now, we haven't put the threads in yet, but I don't know if that was enough or not. But it doesn't take much to figure it out. And if it wasn't enough, it's easy to fix. So that's the kind of nice part about the cap's probably the easiest part for sure. I mean, it's like only a couple steps. Pretty easy to not mess it up. But really, most of these steps are pretty, like I said, I mean, we're drilling and just kind of tapping things. It's not really that hard. The tenon cutter takes one of the hard parts out. If you can afford to, you know, pay for that. And then this guy takes another thing that's difficult, would be more difficult out. That's not what I want. Okay, so we got our bigger thingy here. Here's our 14 millimeter triple tap. This thing opened up, there we go. Okay. We're ready to rock and roll, guys. I think we can get this thing done today. That'll be a first. Get this thing set up. Now, the one thing about this, taking out some material in here, that relief for the threads are technically going to start further in the cap. So make sure if you're messing around with, you know, some of these things, you know, you don't take too much off, or just realize that it's going to slightly change. What that's going to change is where your nib ends up inside the cap. Okay, so it's going to go in a little further. So just make sure that your dimensions and all these things, that's where this gets a little bit kind of technical and annoying. But generally, like if you follow, again, if you go to the Turner's Warehouse YouTube channel, Chad tells you like all the numbers and stuff like that. That stuff is pretty easy to find, and you can generally, if you follow those guidelines, everything's fine. But when you start changing things around, just realize that, you know, you might need a little bit more room, or, you know, whatever. So eventually you'll figure that out. It's not that hard. I'm just gonna do a little bit of this. Okay, so let's go in. I'm just making sure, yeah, that's running pretty good. That's probably enough. Again, I don't have a very big tenon for the cap and body. This is where I definitely want to clean this out before I start messing around with trying things, testing the fit. Okay, so let's see how we did. It was a little tight. Again, sometimes when you first do this, until I actually put this in the sonic cleaner, some of the stiffness, like it's where it feels a little tight, that oftentimes is going to go away. Now let's see where, with the triple lead taps, there are 3 positions that this could start and end in. And I didn't have it lined up there. So let's try another one. See how close I am. Definitely not there. Looks like this is the... So I can adjust this and try and get my pattern lined up. Let's see, where did I see that little mark? There it is. Usually you want to start it pretty close. And it'll end pretty close. Oh man, I am like dead on. I'm dead on. That's perfect. That is literally exactly lined up. Well, you don't get that tip today. Because you can, if you're trying to line things up, you can adjust stuff. So what I would do is I would take off, if this didn't match up, if it was like slightly off, when I screwed it in and like the grain, whatever, is like slightly off. Basically, you can take off some material off this cap, and that is going to start, it's going to make the starting point and ending point a little bit different. So you can kind of play around and adjust this to get it lined up. Sometimes it takes a little bit of patience, but that was good. Okay, so let's see here. Imperial and metric measurements tattooed. That would actually be pretty funny. Yeah, fountains can be a little bit intimidating for people. But at the same time, if you want to get into selling pens, I'll be completely honest. The fountain pen folks, the enthusiasts, those people are serious enthusiasts. They are serious about their pens. So, it's good. You got a good market, I guess is what I'm saying, with those people. Maybe I would say a little bit over some of the, rollerball is just a pen. I'm writing with it. Those people are like fanatic about fountain pens. So, catering to everybody is the best way to go. Let's see, I'm just going to take this apart. So I'm pretty happy with these results so far. Let's see what the inside of the blanks look like. So we will pull out, let's see here. We've got, and I really love the Turner's Warehouse set for this. Let's see here. Their mandrel set is just amazing. Amazing. Let's turn the body for, I like to do the body first usually. 9. Where's my 10? This must be the 10. There we go. M10 body. And I got a little spacer on here so everything works pretty well. So let's make sure that this works. That's one thing I didn't actually test with any of these. Oh, that works great. Okay. That's not what I want. What is this? A 1/2 inch socket thing. Maybe it's 5/8. Yep, 5/8. So we'll switch our collets out here. Single start stainless cap mandrel. Oh, I see. That's feeling sticky. What's going on there? I got some goobers in here or something. Oh, I do. There's definite goobers in this. Always keep your threads clean, guys. Always keep your threads clean. I'm gonna clean out the threads on the other side too. That was definitely feeling sticky. And if you need a collet chuck, this is the best one you can get. By Stainless Bottle Stoppers. This thing is, I'm just an avid fan of stuff that just really kicks butt, and you just cannot beat this thing. Ooh, that's running pretty good. Not too bad. Okay, so what I like to do, and I recommend that you do this, I just think you're going to find life to be so much easier. If you've got the material to spare, okay, so this is where the problem you run into some problems. If you've got enough material to spare on your blank that you're turning, I highly recommend using your center drill. It's got that 60-degree angle, and put that 60-degree angle in. Don't just pull up a 60-degree cone and try and jam it into the material. It's just going to keep like wedging it out and getting loose and looser and looser as you go. You're going to have to keep tightening that thing to keep it holding. If you put that angle in there, it will match up perfectly with your live center. and you won't have to mess with that. It'll just stay tight the whole time and it won't keep digging in. But you know, this thing it's got a little nib on the end and all this stuff. So you're going to have to pretty much add like a good 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch to your blank material that's going to probably be wasted. So it's up to you. And sometimes you just don't have enough material, you know, and you're just going to have to put the cone in and hope everything goes well. But if you can do it, if you've got the material, then I highly recommend doing it this way. It's a little wobbly. Let me just make sure everything's tight here. Let me look at this. That's running true. So it's my blank. Let me just make sure that I'm tight. Yeah, got a little wobble going on. It's cool. No big deal. You don't have to go super deep or anything like that. Just make sure you get a little bit of that angle on there. I'm just going to leave that in there. And then we'll pull up our live center. And things will be so happy. Okay. Let's get this thing lined up. All right, so and I've got some measurements that I tend to try to follow on these pens. Just makes my life easier. I don't have to really think. Anytime I don't have to think, it makes my life easier. Okay, so let me stop real quick. I'm going to have to get a drink real quick here. And 15, 17. Body. Okay. General guidelines. I don't nail this every time. Amy's in the house. What's up? Beginner's luck. I know, totally. Like I don't think that's ever happened to me. I guarantee there's a way. I haven't figured it out. There's probably a way to know, like if you start the tapping and the blank is oriented correctly to the threads. If you just have the blank in the right position when you first start tapping, you probably eliminate all this stuff. I have no clue I'd have to sit there and mess with it, but I'm pretty sure you could, like if you've got your mark, like where the two things meet up, if you start the tap and die like at the same place, I would imagine that they would have to kind of line up. I don't know if that is true, you know. I got to try it. Actually, a simple way to try that is to just put that mark wherever they meet, like at the top, and then start the tapping process and see I guess, I don't know, I'm assuming that would probably put you pretty close. Like it should be really close at that point. What am I doing? I need a drink, guys, and let's see here. So what's everybody doing for the 4th of July? Anybody got plans to do stuff tonight? Are you guys going to watch any of the shows where they show the fireworks? Gretchen and I we usually like to barbecue. This year was weird because Gretchen was in Greece for 2 weeks. She's still kind of trying to get back on top of stuff. So we tend to have people over and have a barbecue, but the 4th just kind of snuck up on us, and I was like, oh yeah, we could have probably had people over, and she's like, yeah. We couldn't just have like one person over, so too much planning, no time to do it kind of thing, you know. All right, so we got our dust collector on. Let's get you guys back in an orientation that's a little easier, maybe, for everybody to see what's going on. Right here, I'll zoom you out a little bit. That's a little bit ridiculous. All right, let's see. Giving away more rollerballs. Yeah. Myra's here. How's it going? Oh yeah, steel rod, that's pretty cool. That's a smart idea. Lazy days are the best days. Okay. Okay, just want to make sure we're all good. Get this thing rolling. Guys, I can't wait to see what's hiding on the inside of this blank. I really think this is going to be one of those where, like, the outside looked good, you know, it looked really good, but this is one that I think the inside you're going to be like, whoa. Because what really didn't come out was the like swirls. It wasn't very swirly or anything. It just kind of looked a little bit kind of, you know, mixed up. I think we're getting some chatter there. I think the inside is going to be nice and swirly. All right, let me take a couple measurements. I just like to know where I'm at. I think we're pretty close on the front. It's so weird because I for some things I use metric and for others I use the other things. Still got a little bit there, okay. Still got a little bit there, okay. So we're looking pretty good here. I like to taper it down just a little bit usually. We kind of experimented with some different shapes that were pretty cool. But typically I just kind of go for, I don't know, kind of vanilla. Give it a little taper, you know. All right, let's see where we're at now. Oh, I hadn't even looked at the blank yet. Oh my God, guys. I was like paying attention to these numbers. Look at this. We haven't even done anything to it yet. Look at these colors. Wow. This is gonna be fabulous. Woo! You guys picked good colors. Good colors. Oh man. Wow. Alright, so I'm having some chatter problems in the middle there. It's making it, it's kind of like digging in there. So I got kind of this weird hump. It's kind of annoying me. Might be a kind of a lumpy pen. We'll see. All right, I'm going to see if I can get a little bit better response from this guy. No, not really. Okay, we're going to use the 80 grit smoother. No, it's not that bad. It just little bumpy, a little bit kind of, a little crazy. All right, guys, guess what time it is? Everybody's favorite, Lathe Buddy. Oh man, I love Lathe Buddy time. Oh, you like that gold? Yeah, I was kind of curious. I haven't really used it. I did some like samples. I told you I bought like every single eye candy gold on the planet, and I did some like samples, and I was looking for something specific, so I never really used it for anything useful, you know, like in a blank and turned it. And I was like, I gotta be honest, guys. Like I know that there's a lot of mica companies out there. But I'm always like, again, P-Town, the colors that they chose, because there's 1,000 colors on the planet that you could pick if you're gonna be like, because Casey did micas and he picked pretty good colors too. But man, until certain companies came out and chose certain colors, they were all kind of like standard. I mean, there was all, they had some cool ones, but they were all kind of using the same things, it seemed like, because there's a million of these companies out there. But P-Town really picked some really good products, colors, and their product is good. But man, eye candy is just ridiculous. Like, I'm like, dang, you guys they got good products, I really like their stuff. They have so many options, and they've got some very unique things, it seems like. I can't use every single company's mica powders. But that's why I like, P-Town's got certain colors that I just love. I don't need, and so I'm going to keep using their stuff. Because I really like some of their colors a lot. And then, but with eye candy, I like having them in the back pocket because they've kind of got, if you're like, oh, I really want something specific, like they probably have it. That's why one of the things. And then I keep finding these new random, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I wanted that, but I do, So I'm going with 600. Honestly, I maybe could have gone down to 400 to save some time. All it really would do is probably save me some time more than anything. But I want to try and get, there's kind of a little bit of a dip there. That's one thing. If you start noticing chatter, it tends to want to kind of pull the tool in. It makes it kind of hard to get smooth side, like without some sort of a dip or something in there. So just be aware of that. If you start hearing that, take light cuts. If you're taking a deep cut and you start getting chattering, it's gonna pull the tool in for sure. I'm just going to give this like I said, 80 grit smoother. Yeah, Olympic Gold that's actually one of the ones that I really like. What I was looking for was something. The reason I went with, because Olympic Gold is actually what I use for just gold mica. It's actually it's my favorite. If I'm just like, I want gold in this, that's what I pick. And the thing about Olympic Gold is, I've used golds in the past, and I'm not saying every gold is like this, but the ones that I have used have been pretty transparent. Like I could just keep adding and it just doesn't seem like it's really significantly doing anything. Olympic Gold, you really don't need that much. That stuff is super opaque, and it looks good. It's a really good gold. So that's actually my go-to. The problem was it's a little bit in the orange spectrum. And what I was looking for was something in the more yellow. But also is opaque, which you guys, I've talked ad nauseum about yellows. Yellows suck. Yellow's my least favorite color, I think, at this point. So I was looking for something like that just had a little bit less of that orange tint, and I'm talking like minute differences, you know. But I was kind of trying a bunch of different types of things. What I ended up having to do was kind of tweak my own version, but yeah, some of those, it was interesting pulling out some of those, the different size particle gold that they have. I mean, they got like one of every size particle, and it really changes the whole behavior of what's going on. All right, I think I've sanded this thing to death. I wanted to make sure that this thing is not bumpy and weird. Nothing wrong. Nothing I hate more than a bumpy, weird blank. Oh my God, this color. I don't even know what this reminds. It reminds me. It's like geode-like. It almost looks. I mean, it's a little over the top because the colors are more vibrant than you would probably see in most, like rocks, I would say, minerals. But it has that vibe. Like it's almost like a super crazy, like a AI version of a geode. Oh, this is awesome. Can you guys see that? Let's go the right way. Probably better from the side anyway. What I'm really liking is the interference. What did we put in this thing? God, I don't even know what we put in this thing. It's ridiculous though. Interference red, I'm guessing. I really like that in there. It just, man, good color. So what did we put in here? I gotta look at what we did. There's a couple of unique colors, I think. So, oh, the dark ocean green, yeah, ghost red, Nocon. Oh, and the saffron, that's the orange. That's right. And Jungin. And that Aurea is the gold. So, yeah. So, see what I mean? The saffron's really nice. It's a nice orange. And I'm always like, I kind of discount it. I usually pull out the other one. It's a really nice looking orange. Where's that dark ocean? The dark ocean green is quite nice too. There's not a lot in here. Probably more in the cap, I would say. It's a nice looking, man, they all look good. They're all looking pretty good. And it's cool how the Jungin and the blue, and then also the, I mean, even the gold, you know, the one thing about the gold particles, like they kind of tend to, you see them through other colors. And so like the mixture with the gold, the blue, and the interference red, there's places where they kind of coincide differently, and that's really cool looking. Man, this is a good one. I'll stop talking. Let's get this thing done. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this off real quick here. Usually, because I took a lot of material off, I just want to make sure that we're not mixing materials and particles and stuff. Go on to the green. I mean, I could maybe even go with satin on this thing. We'll see what that looks like. I don't know. Mr. Jim, what did Mr. Jim do? Lathe buddy time. Ooh, 12-inch plate, nice. Oh, this is feeling smooth now. Actually, what I want to do real quick before I even move on, I want to cut this thing off and get it. I always forget this stuff. we're gonna get it finished off so I can just kind of sand it, and I don't have to sand it twice, basically. All right, so let me see here. Should be good by taking about. Kind of wipe off some of the water. I'm gonna grab my Sharpie here. I'm gonna take off. This is an area where you could screw up. I usually leave a good amount of material on the ends of these, so I'm not generally worried. but just make sure that you've got, you know your measurements and all that stuff before you start, going to a point of no return kind of thing, right? This is where we're at. Can I see that mark? Somewhere, it should be somewhere around here. All right, now I can finish this thing completely with the sanding steps. Get this tailstock out of the way. Okay. Okay, we'll go back up to our green. Continue on where we were. Check the wings. All right, Jim, thanks for stopping in. Happy 4th of July. Making sure there wasn't a lip there on the end. You got to be a little careful about, you don't want to be sanding your the threads here. If you're really worried about it, you could put like tape or something over. But if you just don't push down when you're getting close to the end, should be good. Okay, that should be fine. Oh man. I'm going to stop once we get done with the gray, and I want to look at this because there's a slight chance that I may say, you know, I think this might look better with the satin finish. Hey Clint, how's it going? Welcome, happy 4th of July. I like sanding step because I can kind of, I don't have to be all like, oh, am I screwing something up? I can keep an eye on the chat and get my work done at the same time. Like I said, you know, these do require a little bit more attention, you know, than a kit pen, but they're really not hard and they're very enjoyable. I think that's the thing is, it, you know, especially if you've kind of gotten to the point where you're like, I got this kit thing down, you know, like I don't really, they're not particularly challenging. I think if you're in that camp for sure, I think you would really enjoy doing these. But even if you're still kind of beginning, you know, just pen turning in general, I think it's for everybody. It's not that hard, but it does offer a little bit more challenge if you're just kind of, you know, find yourself in the, well, here's this kid again and whatever, you know. And I just really enjoy the fact that, you know, for me especially, I can make the material and then make like pretty much 90% of the pen. Like I'm making the entire thing myself, you know. I'm not like strapping on. That was one of the things when I first got into pen turning in general. I was like, I wasn't, full admission, I was not into pens at all. The reason I got into turning was I wanted to make furniture like legs and knobs and, you know, I wanted functional things that would, you know, I was more into furniture at that point. And but I had to take the intro class at the local woodcraft was like pen turning 101. And I was like, okay, so we're going to take a tiny piece of wood, make it smaller. You know, I was like, great. Oh, I like matte or satin. Guys, I think we're doing satin. I like that a lot. It's still got bling, but it's just kind of like, oh yeah, smooth. Hopefully this is coming through well. I like that a lot. What do you guys think, matte or satin? I don't know if turning it down, the light down helps a little bit. Oh, that is just like, I want to eat it. I want to lick it. Wow. This is a really good blank. And it's not me. Like, you guys picked an amazing set of colors on this one. I'm doing good, Clint. I just wanted to go to my other, I don't know, yeah, maybe a little bit more light. It's hard because I'm like looking at the screen on my camera and it looks blown out, sort of. I can never tell, but then if I go to my screen over here and I'm watching the feed, I think a little bit more light is better. Man, so yeah, what do you guys think about the satin or do you want me to polish it? Oh, let me put some water on so you can kind of get, it's kind of hard to tell. But with the water, that'll kind of tell you glossy. That's what it's going to look like. I got to be honest, like the satin to me, it just, like I said, it just melts. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just feels like the satin is where it's at for me. But I can go either way. I don't care either way. Because it still retains like the essence, the shimmer. It's just not as like glossy, you know. Yeah, I agree with the gold gets a little bit dampened. It's like split. I know, yeah, I could go either way. I'm definitely not like, I mean, obviously I'm kind of in the satin camp, but man. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see the sparkle. It kind of loses that gold sparkle. Okay, let's go for the polish. Let's polish it up. I can always, you know, this is another thing that I really like about the kitless pens. If I'm like, yeah, I don't really like that after the stream, I can just chuck it back up on this thing and I don't have to like disassemble the pen and do all this stuff. I can just put it up there and drop it down. That's another thing that I like about the satin versus gloss. It's not like, you know, I'm putting on a finish and like, you know, there's a little bit more work involved in taking a CA finish off and you know, doing stuff. With this, you know, if I polish it up and I'm like, yeah, I don't really like that. All I got to do is sand it. You know, there's not much going on there. Don't have a whole lot to do. Let's get some of this water off my lathe. Okay, so let's polish this guy up. I'm going to get you guys out of the way. And, you know, once we get the cap done, you know, we may say, well, I don't know. Now that I see it finished completely. Okay, so we got our magic juice. Let me get my little paper shreds ready here. Still love that little carrier mark. It is awesome. Again, I really am a big fan of things that just kick ass, and that is one of them. All right, so we got our step one magic juice. This stuff's amazing. If you haven't tried it yet, give it a shot. Turner's has a sample set. Very reasonable. I think it's 20 bucks, 15 bucks, something like that. And really, the nice thing about that set is you're gonna get a good amount of pens done with that, even that sample set. Like, I got 2-ounce bottles now because I use this stuff for like almost all of my pens. But even the 1-ounce bottles last forever. So the 15 milliliter ones, which is what I think that's what the sample size is. I mean, you're going to get a bunch of pens done. So it's not a waste of money. And I always recommend trying it, even if you're like, yeah, I got my thing. I was that way, and then I tried this, and I was like, well, okay, I'm getting better results, and it's easier. So can't really not. Okay. Yeah, that is pretty nice. Like I said, either way, like this type of color mix, you know, I mean, really, there's no wrong answer here. Like, I do like, in general, I would say that I kind of like the satin finish to feel better. It feels different in your hand. So like I kind of, you know, like holding it, I actually kind of prefer it satin. I would, sometimes. Feels more warm or something. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's just because it's like different. You know, I'm kind of used to most of the time, and you know, you polish it up. But yeah, the satin's not a bad way to go if you haven't tried it yet. Give it a shot. You might find that you're like, wow, that's interesting, and it's less work, technically. And I always say, if you're gonna do it, tell the people that, you know, if you're selling pens, be like, oh, that's a satin finish. That'll cost you $20. So you can make more money off the unexpected. I'm just going to get some of this extra stuff that's on the threads. You don't want to be messing too much with the threads, you know, because you can kind of, I mean, that's not going to hurt anything, but I wouldn't run this thing and then try and wipe off the threads. That's definitely going to alter the thread stuff. Oh, I went a little heavy on that one. That's okay. Can never have too much magic juice, right? Not stain. Oh yeah, on the section, that's a good idea. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. I'm down for that. Then we get the best of both worlds. I never even thought about it. Okay. Now that we're getting up a little higher in the polish, I'm going to pull out the towel. I'm not yet convinced that the blue towels are doing anything if I wipe. I still don't really want to be running the lathe and then just wipe off the excess with a paper towel, but I think wiping side to side on 1, 2, 1 and 2, whatever. Oh, that's step 6. I don't need that. Let's go with step 4. Go in order. It generally works better. Come on. That one was a little shy. Step 4. Step 4 can be shy sometimes. Don't be modest, step 4. Oh, that's why you don't want to be using a rag, a full rag, when you're doing this stuff. The lathe running. As it wraps up, and best case scenario, it just scares you. Worst case scenario, it grabs your hand and rips you into the lathe. Not fun. Not a good idea. Always be careful. My favorite quote, I think ever, dealing with safety in the workshop is from the YouTube channel Blondie Hacks. If you ever get into machining stuff or you're curious, she has a great channel, explains everything. She's her thing is always keep in mind. I can't direct quote, but she basically says like all these machines are trying to kill you, so just keep that in mind when you're in the shop. All these things, it's trying to kill you. So healthy dose of respect. May not appear like they're trying to, but they're tricky. They are always trying to kill you. Like the aliens coming to get us. Let's see here. Not a complete convert yet. I will say that is actually on the rare end of things, though. A lot of people, and I'm always careful. I'm leaning more towards being like, you should just try it. At first, I was like, what could it hurt? $15. If you've got $15 to spare, especially if you're like, I don't know, my polishing method is okay. You're not like super wowed by your, current method. Then give it a shot, see what happens. But over the years, most people come back and they're like, even the ones that are like, man, I love my micro mesh though. Or, what I've heard it all, And I was like I got my buffing thing. That's how I was. But I've heard so many people are like, yeah, stuff it's really pretty good. More rare that people are like, yeah, I don't really like it. I don't know that I've heard anybody say I don't like it, actually. That's one that I don't think I've actually heard. They're like, yeah, it's fine. It's not better than what I do, It's equal. I don't see the need to change, kind of thing. Let's see. I like to use those little... Oh man, I'm down to my last microfiber things. Gotta get some more. I don't know, guys. I just keeping my eye on the calendar, though. Snowboarding season, it's coming back around. I'm ready. Let's do it. Where did the 6 go? Okay, here we go. And that thing is looking pretty wicked. I'm always amazed, just after step 1 with this stuff, I'm like, I could just stop here. It's like, that's awesome, even. It's definitely not polished, there's scratches and stuff, but the transformation going from the gray to step 1 is just like, wow. And that would be the same, no matter what first polishing step, it's always the same. That's not a magic juice thing necessarily, but I always love that. Going into the polishing stages, starts to shine. Okay. So let's stop this guy. Give it a wipey. I'm going to dunk this in the sonic cleaner. Oh man, yeah. That is pretty good, guys. That is pretty good. I'm gonna actually just take it off here. Usually works better with like the reflections vertically here. I can get the right, man, it's so shiny I can't keep the reflections away. That is looking good. I'm stoked about this idea with the section being satin. I really like that idea. Thanks, Chris. That's gonna be fun. Oh, it helps to have water in this thing. Haven't used this for a while. Luckily, I got some water here. There we go. Don't go over that line. Okay. All right, so I'm going to dunk this thing, like I said, in the sonic cleaner. And I really recommend if you're doing these things, you can pick up a pretty ultrasonic cleaner, I guess is what it's really called. You can pick them up for pretty cheap. You don't need a gigantic one or anything, but it really does clean it really well. Way better than you're going to get in any other method. All right, let's get the cap up here. We'll finish that guy. Let's see, I'm going to put this back in my tool chest so I don't lose it. $14mm cap. Hopefully this works. I didn't test my fit on my mandrels. Should be fine, but let's just see how we did here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, that's good. What is this size? 3/4, okay. Let's see here. Your bandsaw did. Oh man, those are scary. I'll tell you what, one of the scariest things that ever happened to me, I had a kickback on the table saw. That sucked. Luckily it was a pretty big piece, and this was on a, let's do this the right way. It was a huge panel, and it was on like one of those like contractor, saws that just sucked anyway. But yeah, the kickback, that I didn't like that so much, but it wasn't that bad. It just scared me. But the worst one was on the bandsaw. I learned real quick. I was like, oh, because I sell the aluminum honeycomb panels, and people, and I had always thought about this, I sell like 3/4 inch or 2 inch. And I was like, it'd be really nice if I could just cut this down, the thickness of it to like whatever I want, and let people know. And I found out real quick, you cannot cut aluminum honeycomb on its side. There's no strength whatsoever to that stuff. It just crumples. Luckily, I mean, it was not a big deal. It was scary, but man, I was like, whoa. So, lesson learned, if you're ever cutting aluminum honeycomb, now if it's in a blank, that's fine, because you got material around it. It's stiff. But if you're trying to just take a honeycomb panel, and I'm getting a show and tell here real quick here. So here's aluminum, for honeycomb blanks. Never try to cut it this way. Always have it, this is where the strength is. This stuff is super strong, so as long as you put it down on the table, on the work surface, and you're cutting it this way, no problems whatsoever. Just any bandsaw blade will cut it. But never put it up on its side like this and try and like resaw it or, whatever, cut it in half. Just because there's no strength to this stuff sideways. And it'll jam up in your blade and you're like, whoa! That was one of those days I had to change my shorts. I was like, whoa. Not cool. All right, so here we go. We're gonna put a little center thing. And again, this is just so that the live center doesn't keep trying to dig into the blank, it'll register on that 60-degree angle that the center drill cuts, and keep everything running nice and smooth without having to constantly keep adjusting your tailstock. But it does take a little bit more material, so it's, you know, just yeah, I just use water. You could put a cleaner in there, but I haven't really even found that necessary. I just want to make sure. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Somebody said noise. I wasn't sure what that was. I want to make sure the mic was working. What am I doing? Okay, so put the gloves off. The gloves are coming off. Get our tool out. I gotta dry my hands off. Gloves make my hands sweat, and then they don't slide on the tool rest and mess things up. All right, hopefully that'll be good. Can you guys see? Yeah. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. Seems a little close. I'm gonna check my numbers here real quick. It's getting close there. About even. See here. Oh, noise. Noise. It's probably pretty good on that end there. All right, so let me check the length. Got a kind of a, yeah, so I want to look about, it's pretty good. Might take a little bit more off. And that should be pretty good right there. Do a little bit of sanding. Lathe buddy time. Okay. So we'll be a little bit long today, but we'll get this thing done. We'll get her done. Nice thing about the cap's pretty quick. There's not a lot of material to take off. If you're starting with a 3/4 inch and you're going with a 14 millimeter blank, you know, the threads, there's just not that much material to take off. And I need a drink. But that also brings me to another thing. If you're going for a 15 millimeter thread, I don't know that you're going to get that with a 3/4 inch blank. You're better off going with, you know, and most of your silicone molds are going to be a 3/4 inch. You know, so like the P-Town molds, my Gatling mold, all those are like, typically your silicone molds are going to produce a 3/4 inch blank. PVC pipes do 13/16, and so that's where I would start, but you may even need to go up to like a 7/8, possibly, for the big fat pens. And part of the reason for that is it's very difficult when you're pouring vertical blanks to get the outsides of the blank. We always talk about that, what's on the inside. Well, if you're not taking much material off the outside, you may be able to actually physically get enough material to make a 15 millimeter, you know, thread pen, you know, cap and body, but the blank may not really look that great. So you're better off, you know, probably going up. I think you'd probably be fine if you're using a PVC pipe for a 15 millimeter. It would be fine. But definitely a 7/8 for sure will do what you want. I'm just going to get the bulk of this done with the silicon carbide here with the 600. And then, man, I'm talking too much, I think. And then we'll lop off the end there. Okay. Now, this thing out. Okay. Let's see here. Bone crusher. What's up? Yeah, I think you'll have enough material, but it depends. Like, if you're buying my blanks, I wouldn't recommend it because, like, especially like the team color, you just I don't know if you're going to get enough material off to get into the real meat and potatoes of my blanks. And I'm just talking the pattern. Everything else will be okay, probably. Okay. That's what I like to call lathe buddy intermission. Now we're back. And the reason I do that is I don't have to worry about pressure or anything like that when I'm using the 600 to get the main body. The cap's not that big of a deal, but you can put some bend, depending on how much. I don't put a lot of pressure, but I just on the body of the pen, I definitely like to leave the tailstock up and have full support. Get any ridges or anything like that out. Do some the real like sanding with tailstock support, and then lop it off. The rest of it's all just kind of polishing mostly. And in this case, I'm I'm pushing. I'm not bending the blank at all. I'm pushing into the headstock, so I don't really care so much about the end. It's probably not going to hurt anything. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just cutting it to length and sanding, but you know me, I'm pretty crazy. Okay, let's see here. Get this thing cross grit sanding. Okay. What's in? Oh, are you doing the pen show in Portland? I was gonna go to that, but things just didn't work out. There was too much stuff going on around that same time. Oh, I'm using the wrong. I was like, this doesn't feel right. Using the wrong side of the paper. That's not really sanding much. Okay. I'm okay. I didn't take my meds this morning. My bad. Okay, I think I'm gonna call that good. We'll go to our gray. Make sure I'm using the right side. Gee. That's why you put an X. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, don't use that side. The worst one, I mean, I could tell immediately when I looked, but the worst one with these is the final step. If you're going all the way through it's literally white and white. I'm like, come on. There's other colors in the spectrum that you could have put on the front of this thing. And it's really hard to tell. Like, I'm like, new ones are okay. If it's used, I pretty much just throw it away because I'm not going to figure out which side is which. On the zonas. And then so I used to use, I never really liked the pads for because Micro Mesh was the only game in town for many years. And for like polishing pads. And, but I didn't like the pad thing. I didn't have the feel. It took away like the feeling. It was just, and so I just found myself like burning them up and it was weird. So, but I found that you could buy micro mesh in sheets, like sandpaper sheet kind of things. But it literally was like, and there's like, how many, like 8 grits in micro mesh or something like that, 8 steps. And it literally was just different shades of gray. And I was like, come on, like really? So when I found Zona, I was like, yeah, I'm done with micro mesh. This stuff is stupid. And it's two less steps. That's not what I want. Give me my magic juice. It's only 6, I think, steps with not magic juice, the Zona paper. It's all just better all around. I need some, so I like to use the blue paper towels for anybody that doesn't know already. When I'm applying the polish, I don't like the white ones. They feel pretty abrasive. I don't know if there's a difference, but based on my own experiences, blue paper towels are less abrasive. So I like to use these guys. And then for the final step, couple steps, final step at this point, I like to use a microfiber type material that's non-scratching. Still not 100% sure if that's fully necessary, but it seems like I get better results. But if you're using a microfiber, don't use the whole towel with the thing spinning, the lathe on. It will, if it does catch, you're going to be hurting. So just cut a microfiber towel into small pieces, or you can find other non-scratch kind of smaller things on Amazon that can work for this kind of application. Yeah, we went for polished. It was split 50-50, so I couldn't really let the chat decide. And I was like, and then I put some water. I'm like, yeah. The gold just kind of wasn't popping. So I was like, yeah, okay. I can see. But then Chris recommended, Chris said that he does satin sections with a full gloss polish. And I was like, I've never done that. That's kind of cool. So we're kind of doing the best of both worlds. The grippy part, which is also part of the satin thing, is going to be satin. And then the rest of everything else will be all poppy, glossy pop. That number 2 just dries up quick. Okay, number 3. Trying to cruise today, guys. I'm trying to get this all done for you without spending too much time. Luckily, the section takes like 2 seconds to turn. That one's a pretty quick one. And even polish. It really, there's just not enough material there to spend 3 hours polishing and sanding. Okay, step 4. Oh yeah, the gun cleaning pads. That was the one. I haven't used those before. I got to try that. And I'm running a lathe around 1800 or so. Seems to be a pretty good speed. I think they recommend like 2000. Sometimes I find, and it may be the dry climate, just the faster you go, sometimes it just kind of doesn't seem like it works as well. So somewhere between like 1500, 1800 is usually what I'm running. Okay, step 5. We're almost there. Whoa, that was way too much, step 5. I'll squirt it out at the end. Yeah, that's like way too much. Okay, that would be good. It's still way too much. Wow. Okay. I still feel like the satin finish would have looked great on this, but yeah, you did lose a little bit with the gold. It just didn't twinkle. Like if we could just make the gold part twinkle and keep satin, man. Okay, step 5 accomplished. And step 6. Okay. See how we did. Woo! Just gonna wipe off. There's a little bit on the bottom there. Clean that off. Ooh. Thing is just a good color mix, guys. I'm telling you, we got some pretty good, mixing going on in there. For some reason, it's just I don't know what it is, but the colors that we chose and the way they're working together, they like melt into each other and do different stuff depending on how you're looking at it. All right, that is looking good. A little bit of junk in the end of this cap here that maybe I can get out by tapping. Sonic cleaner will take care of that. Pull out the body, let that dry while we're waiting. Drop our cap in the sonic cleaner. We'll just show you guys the body again. I like to kind of try and get as much of the water out of the middle before, and then, woo! So it cleans it up pretty nicely. Like I said, you could use like a cleaner of some sort. A lot of people put in the simple green or something like that. And that'll probably help a little bit. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know for sure. I've never really tried it, but it is very common for people to do that. Honestly, I don't have simple green. I just never tried it, and it seems to work okay, fine, you know, without doing that. Okay, so let's get this stuff. Get my bottles all closed. I tend to shake them and then they're open and things are terrible. Okay, so now we get to use one of the most amazing tools I've ever seen in my life. The Turner's Warehouse mandrel for the sections. I love this thing. Literally, I was like, Santa, this is what I want. And Chad was like, oh, we did it. I was like, sweet. One of the nice things, I guess, that I'll say about doing it where I put the relief in the cap threads. I don't have to worry about spacers or anything on this mandrel. You do have to put a spacer on the Turner's Warehouse mandrel for the body. So having it inside the cap, then it takes care of spacers or having to do anything with that stuff. Where's my cap thing? Huh. Right here. Okay, so I'm doing a Yovo number 6. One thing I am waiting for is I'm hoping they come out with a Yovo 5 mandrel. That would be pretty stellar. So here's what I love about this thing. So it's a normal mandrel. You just spin it on like normal. However, it's also got threads on the other side. And what I love about this is I want the stability. I want to be able to bring up tailstock support. It's got a rod going all the way through. So it's really good. I find that other mandrels that just are kind of hanging on sort of and whatever, and you don't have any tailstock support, that's why I think a lot of people would get blowouts. So it's good to turn the shape that way, but one of the problems with those types of mandrels, if you're coming in from this side, it's on the lathe like this, and you can't, by the time you've turned all this down, you can't sand or polish the front of the section. This solves that problem. You flip it, and you can finish your sanding and polishing and doing whatever you want on the front end of it. I love this thing. You could technically turn it this way too. I don't really recommend that, but you know, if you wanted to, you could just go that way. Okay, so this is, I think, a 1/4 inch. Is that right? Nope. Or maybe this isn't a 1/4 inch mandrel. Let's see. What is this? 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I think so. I didn't mention that about the Wi-Fi thing. So I went in and looked at settings and all kinds of different stuff. And I think, let's see, there was 2 problems for anybody that does streaming or has any, you know, cares about this. I had like a backup server that I was sending the stream to. I don't really know what this all means, but basically my signal, you know, YouTube has to get it somewhere, and there's different options you can choose. I had like a backup server. I don't know why I had that setting on. I must have had a problem with their normal one at some point. So I changed that, but I don't know that that was really the problem. The problem that I'm pretty sure was the problem, I was running, and I think the software, I did an update, you update it all the time. I think one of the updates, it changed my settings because it was running a generic graphic, whatever, something. And you need to be running it on the Apple hardware, whatever. I don't know everything about this stuff, but I had settings wrong, I think, and it was it was taxing my system basically and screwing things up. I thought there was no problems today, so we should be good now. In fact, it might actually be like better somehow, possibly. Let's see. Yeah, I know this mandrel is, I'm telling you, I was literally like, because I used to do things all weird. I had like weird setups to do that. And Chad was like, oh, I got you covered. I was like, sweet. Oh, what powders did I use? I was like, I'm missing something, I think. We used No-Con Blue, Interference Red, Dark Ocean Green, Jungan Silver, Aurea Gold, and Saffron Orange. So most of those are all eye candies except for the Saffron, which is a P-Town. That's the orange one. Yeah, really, really good mixture. All right, I'm just gonna double check my numbers here. I got my where I want to be written down. Pretty sure I'm pretty sure I can basically use this thing as a guide. I just like to double check. So I go for 12 and a half. Because it's got to be small enough to fit in the cap, but not so small that it's like falling apart. It's a little bigger on the back end. Almost there. Is Amy gone? Oh, I think I missed you, Amy. Have a good Happy 4th of July. There we go. We're good there. Oh, perfect. Wow. All right, so I just get it like an even cylinder at the dimensions that I want, and then I come in here and start kind of giving it a little bit of character. I like that, I think. Okay, I'm good. So like I said, the section goes really fast. The turning and sanding and polishing, all this stuff, and like I said, a lot of the section tends to be the thing that blows up. A lot of people are like, yeah, I just have backups. And I really think that it has to do with many times people are just kind of, it's hanging off of a mandrel, no tailstock support whatsoever, and you know, no bar going all the way through and all that stuff, and it makes it kind of wobbly, and it's a very thin piece in the beginning. So with this mandrel, I really feel like, I mean, it's not to say things happen when you're turning, so, but, and the section is still probably going to be the most notorious piece to blow up. If something's going to blow up, it's going to be this because it's so thin. But I think this mandrel will probably minimize the amounts of sections that blow up because it just works really well. Okay, so let's do our final piece. We're only going to satin on this guy. That's going to be kind of cool. I'm really anxious to see how this looks. And if I'm like, I don't really like it, then again, I can just pop it on here, put a gloss on it. All right, so all this stuff. Start with our 600 here. Another thing, again, with that, being able to flip this thing backwards, or like whatever, flip sides and be able to get to it. The other thing is I like to be able to kind of round over. I don't want that sharp corner. I mean, more than just like polishing the front end of this thing, it's actually, I want to be able to shape that leading edge so it's not like sharp. And being able to flip this thing in the mandrel just makes that so simple. Otherwise, you kind of, I mean, your options are to make your own mandrel, which is what I did for many years, or you could like try and do it by hand, I guess, but like holding it, that's not really fun. Okay, that probably is good. I'm gonna kind of probably, well, we don't need it dead polished, so there's gonna be some scratches in it anyway, so that's nice. I was gonna do a little bit of a quick job on this. I can always go back and fix it if I'm like, man, that was a pretty terrible sanding job. Just try and speed through this part so we can get our results. Okay, and then gray. Come on. Get up there. And you can stop at green, you know, so the way that I like to explain it, going a little bit finer with the gray, I don't know if this is like true. This isn't like perfect, but a good analogy is if you stop at green, I would call that like matte. It's going to be a little bit duller. And if you go to the gray, you know, or equivalents or whatever, I would call that maybe like a satin. It's just a little bit more polished, but there's nothing, you know, the matte is fine too. And for certain things, I would actually stop, like the camo blanks, I would probably just stop at green. Like it looks, you know, the green Zona, you really want that kind of matte look on that one. But for some of them, I think I personally prefer the going up to the gray. And I'm just going to do a little bit of what I like to do. This is probably unnecessary on this little tiny piece, but I like to do like slight little circles because we are leaving scratches in this. I mean, they're going to be visible if you look, you know, under like a magnifying lens. And you may even be able to see them, especially with the green anyway, with the naked eye. So, but if you put just a little bit of a circle pattern, I consider it like a random orbit sander. It's putting a the pattern is like, there is no pattern kind of really, that your eyes will see. A lot of times you can see those kind of just radial scratch marks, but little circles, sometimes your eye can't even pick that up, and so nobody would even notice. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Like I said, on something this small, I don't know if that really is necessary, but I do personally see a difference if I do that step, just like on a normal size pen. So now we'll flip this guy, and like I said, this has got a really sharp edge to it. So I like to give it a little bit of attention here with the 600, and I can get the front polished up a little bit here. But I'm really working on this front leading. I want to round this over a good amount. So like I'm doing some 80 grit shaping here, you know, 600, but you get the point. Because this is the thing that you're going to engage with the most, and you don't want sharp stuff on where you're touching. Okay, I'm going to stop it, and I just want to feel. Yeah, there's still. I was trying to. Whoa, that's too fast. I'm going to have to get on this a little bit and kind of redo some of the front. You could even take a tool to this very lightly and just, you know, do it that way instead of sanding, but sanding works just fine too. And technically, I actually kind of forgot. Technically, I think that it's probably, I didn't even think about this. Again, I don't do this like every day, so sometimes I'm like, oh, forgot about this. I would actually just, when you're done turning, just flip it right then. You're probably fine, you know? Then you don't have to do this twice. Okay, here we go. Final step. Okay, and then again, you give it a little bit of some squiggles just to try and kind of break up, make it a non-identifiable pattern of scratches. Light, very lightly too. This water out of the inside so we can load our nib in there. And this is always one of my favorites here. I like to load the nib. And then turn it on. Yeah, that's always fun. I love that. Okay, so take this guy off. One of the nice things, again, I was saying that, you know, really you don't need to sand with it in the other orientation. One of the nice things also about this is you're hiding the threads. So there's no way that you could screw them up while you're sanding if you just start off by flipping this thing. So let's go get our parts real quickly here. Got to dry off the cap a little bit here. One of the nice things about doing this one second is the cap tends to dry off quicker because it's a bigger hole. Dry that off, and I'm going to blow it out. So I like to just kind of pat it a little bit, wipe it off, and then take some air lightly. Blow it off on the inside and then wipe it off again. We should be pretty good here. Okay, so I think there's pretty good light here, so I'm just going to assemble this here and then we'll go over to the other camera. I'm going to get this thing right here. And zoom out a little bit. Okay, so we got our body, we got our nib. Hopefully everything still goes together real nice. Oh, that's smooth. It's still a little tight at the end there. Oh. I might need to do that, like I was saying, that trick where, you know, you just put some, like some sort of an abrasive. Like I like the body, what do they call that stuff? It's actually I need to get a new one of these dried out, but it's turtle wax rubbing compound. This stuff works pretty good. You could probably, like I said, use, which I might do this, I might try this. The Yorkshire grit would probably work. You could maybe use the step 1. So, you know, whatever. There's lots of options. You just basically put it on the threads and then just work it in and out. And that should loosen everything up a little bit. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could go either way with the gloss or the satin on the nib. But the nice thing about that is it's going to feel, like I said, it feels different. I like the feeling of that. So that's going to be cool to write with. And then let's see here. I don't know which. I got to figure out how to line this thing up. Maybe like this. Yeah, that's a little sticky too. Ooh, that's pretty sticky. Sometimes things kind of heat up when you're polishing and doing all that stuff, so let me see if cleaning the threads does anything. Still maybe some junk in the threads. The other thing is we can put on a little bit of the silicone stuff, whatever. Try that and see if that helps. Otherwise, again, if you've got sticky threads, then the best thing to do is that rubbing compound step. But it appears, it looks like these threads are, there's some stuff in them. So I'm just taking, what I'm doing here is I'm taking this little brush, trying to not get the body itself. Just kind of clean these out and see if that fixes anything. Pretty rough. So next step I'm going to try is we're going to try running the tap. That one is much easier to get aligned, to get started, let's say, on those threads than I find for the cap, the inside. Just going to wipe some of that stuff off. Okay, so I'm just going to see how this feels. Try not to, here we go, it kind of clicked. You gotta be very careful. Yeah. This thing's pretty sticky. I actually need, it's pretty tight. It might have kind of clamped down a little bit. Like I said, my lathe runs hot, the headstock, and it might have kind of had an effect on the material. So I'm going to grab my T-handle, because the problem is at this point I can't, you know, like load it back up on the lathe. So I'm going to grab my T-handle real quick here. And just work these threads again. Let's see what that did. Again, I'm going to go with my little brush thing. Just kind of clean out that. I'm not going to take off a whole lot, but it did feel, it was tight. It wasn't running super smooth in there, so let's see how this did. Still a little tight, man. I don't know what's going on here, guys. Got tight threads. Might have to run both of them. Yeah, okay. I always try to stay away from having to redo the body threads on the die because it's kind of sketchy for me usually. But I think we're gonna have to do it. So let's try to get this thing to work without killing it. If I don't get this right, then my threads are gonna be stripped. I'm going to do this over at the other desk because I can't really see what I'm doing trying to get it under the camera. So let's do this over here. Let's see, I got to turn the camera back on. Camera 1, maybe. There we go. Okay, so, and this is easier to do. Telling you, this one's always the rough one. Might be better off just trying the rubbing compound. But it's kind of tight enough where I think that it needs to be run again. Okay, I got it. Yeah, see, it's pretty tight. And again, I kind of think that this might have something to do with, like I said, my head. I probably need new headstock bearings, whatever the spindle bearings on my lathe, because it gets quite hot. Shouldn't have taken it all the way out. All right, let's see if that made a difference. Again, I'm going to wipe off those threads with the brush. And if that didn't work, I think that should have loosened things up quite a bit, but if that didn't work, then I'm going to go with the body, the rubbing compound stuff. So let's try this now. Oh yeah, well, still tight in there. Now, how does this? Not entirely certain how this lines up. A lot of stuff going on here. Man. Let's see here. Where would orange be? Kind of weird. Orange, I think, is right here. It doesn't really line up though. Okay, so I think it's like this. Doesn't exactly, like, there's no specific pattern. Part of the problem is we've got lots of swirls going on, and these are two different diameters. And that's what I was saying, like, things don't always line up perfectly if they're kind of slightly different diameters and stuff like that. Plus, you've also taken out some amount of material for the, with the kerf, you know, the bandsaw blade kerf takes out some material. And the section doesn't match up to anything anyway. So that's why I take that off the end. But overall, man, this thing is wicked. So just what I need to do is just run some of that rubbing compound. And I really kind of even need to do it on this section threads too. So let's go get that real quick and I'll show you. I really need new Yeah, this rubbing compound is terrible. That stuff's not good. So let's try the Yorkshire grit. I think that might work pretty well. Anybody still watching? Yeah, man, these colors, I am just, whew. I'm not as excited because I'm trying to get this thing, you know, get these threads to work. So I'm like, my focus is like not entirely on the pen. So I just took a little bit of Yorkshire grit, and I don't know exactly what grit that rubbing compound is exactly, or, you know, any of this stuff. So, but I think Yorkshire grit should be, it's in the realm of where we want it to be, like, you know, like around 1,000 grit, something like that. It's probably what Yorkshire grit is. So all I'm doing is I'm running it in and out, and there is abrasive in Yorkshire grit. So you just need something with some abrasive in it, and you want to just work those threads. It's going to remove some material and loosen everything up, make it run smoothly. And this happens to me a lot. There may be something with the way that I do things that causes this. I don't know. It's pretty typical for me, honestly. So, you know. Now, I got it all over the pen too, so I may have to actually polish this again, but that's okay. And then I'm also going to put some on the section threads and do that. But this generally will fix the problem. Like this is going to solve the problem. Because it's usually not like, you know, it's like totally wrong. It's just that there's a little bit of tightness and it needs some help, especially at the end there. And it may take a couple rounds, you know, you may need to reload and put a little bit more on. The more that you turn it, the more plastic, you know, threads, whatever, you're going to be taking off, and the easier it's going to be. So you may want to stop at some point and, you know, clean everything off and see how everything works. Yeah, I think, yeah, this Yorkshire grit, that's a good option if you got that in your shop. So let's just put this back together. What I want to do is run this through the cleaner again. I think everything's pretty good looking on it. I don't think that I got it all over the place. But you definitely want to get all that abrasive material off. So let's see here. So this thing lines up. And there's still abrasive on this, so it's a little sticky right now. Still, because I didn't take it off. Man, that's pretty awesome though, guys. I love how the gold it's like it glitters. And then, you know, you got like this Jungin, and a lot of these things, especially like the Jungin and the interference, have that kind of weird aurora effect. And I mean, you know, micas in general do that a lot, but the way these things work together, it's just a really cool color combination. Hold this end up so you can see this. Pretty cool. All right, whew, we made it. It was a long one, but we persevered. Yeah, I know. I've kind of messed around with like the die. I know it's got that screw, but I don't know enough about it. I'm like, should I? So I've kind of played with it, but yeah, I think I might need to tighten it a little bit more. That's one of the things that my analytical brain has always said that, but I'm always like, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't know if I want to mess with this thing. So, you could put wax on. Actually, what I typically put on these things is, and they call it, what do they call it? Silicone grease? Is that what it's called? Yeah, depending. It was pretty tight, though. I mean, that wax probably was not going to solve the problem that I had off the bat. Where is that stuff? I lost it. I think it's called silicone grease. Oh, here it is. I usually put that on the threads. Yeah, seal. I don't know, whatever. Pure silicone. Whatever this is. Oh, that's not the right camera. I think it's called silicone grease. It's kind of a weird, and it'll seal as well. If you've got a piston style, I think that's why a lot of people use that stuff. It usually adds a little bit of lubrication to the threads without doing anything weird. So, you placed your order. Sweet. Cool. Yeah, so great choices on the colors, guys. You did really just knocked it out of the park this time. And so again, the blanks, this blank is going to go in the pen blank club, and they're the long boys also. So if you do the kitless stuff or want to try it out, this will be a good one to try it out on, I think. And then it also, in this month, or like next month, I guess, technically, well, no, this month, July, also has the triple helix ones, and so you'll get one or the other, the red, white, and gold, or the, I think we use interference red. What is it? Interference red, beetle blue. We had a green in there too. And there might have been one other color. What was the green? Interference red, beetle blue. There's a green, and I thought there was, oh, no, black was in the blank, let's see what this is. Hold on, I got it written down here. Black helix. Okay, yeah, interference red, or actually ghost red, beetle blue, and Okinawa green. That's what it was. So, pretty awesome, guys. So, I hope everybody, thanks for joining the fun today. I know it's 4th of July, so I wasn't sure how many people were, a lot of people might be kind of busy or doing stuff. So, I was like, whatever, we'll turn it on. If you want to watch the replay, you can do that too. But I hope everybody has a safe and fun 4th of July. Hopefully you'll get to see some fireworks and, I don't know, maybe eat some barbecue or something. We're going to have a little barbecue at our house. It's just kind of low key this year. So, but it's going to be pretty fun. And I think it should be, I don't know, should be a pretty good day, I think. So again, but there's always crazies out on the 4th of July. So just, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're safe and watch out for the other guy, of course, if you're driving. But anyway, yeah, guys, thanks again for the good color choices. Man, this thing is just catches my eye. Like I want to look at it. Like it's got some just interesting. It's an interesting array of colors. Like it was a good mix overall, I think, too. So anyway, guys, thanks again for joining the fun. I hope you have a wonderful, happy 4th of July, and I'll see you guys on the stream next week.